Over at DC Comics, I think one of the best aspects of the Batman franchise over the past couple of years has been the resurgence of Damian Wayne as a character, and particularly the publisher has done a great job looking into some of his origins. As Damian is the son of Bruce, but also he is the son of Talia al Ghul. For those not in the know, Talia al Ghul is the daughter of the villainous demon over at DC Comics, and Talia raised Damian as an assassin. Damian has had a very difficult time kind of curbing some of his violent tendencies, which led to the showdown between father and son over in the pages of Batman vs. Robin. We learned that there was a mysterious third party manipulating Robin into fighting his father. My name is Arico Braddock, and today we're going to go ahead and follow up on Batman vs. Robin 4 with a look at DC's Lazarus Planet Alpha #1. But before we dive deeper into the video, want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like over on the video if you enjoy our content. Without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce this issue by reading off the solicitation text over from DC Comics. Change the world. Following the explosive events of Batman vs. Robin #4, the Lazarus Volcano has erupted, spewing dangerous and transformative chemicals into Earth's atmosphere. As these Lazarus clouds rain down upon the planet, people across the globe begin to develop strange new abilities, watch their already extraordinary abilities change, and witness a whole host of chaos unlike anything the DCU has experienced before. It's up to Damian Wayne to put out the distress call for whoever can still hear it. Come to the ruins of the Hall of Justice and help save the world. Poison Ivy, Power Girl, Cyborg, Batman, and more answer the call. But why could the fate of all life as we know it rest in the hands of Monkey Prince? And I want to go ahead and read off of the creative team of the series. There's actually 2 stories in here. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with the first one called Lazarus Planet Alpha. This one's written by Mark Waid. That features art from Riccardo Federici, colors from Brad Anderson, letters from Steve Wands. And I want to go ahead and show off the gorgeous cover for the issue over from David Marquez and Alejandro Sanchez. Here's a look at DC's Lazarus Planet Alpha #1. I love kind of the strange group of characters brought together, and also I really appreciate the composition that artist David Marquez lent over to kind of this cover. I think it's really iconic and strikes kind of an interesting tone that I think makes readers want to kind of pick up and move to the next page. But let's take a look at the gorgeous art over from Riccardo Federici in the issue. As you can tell, this is like very realistic, which is kind of a big change over from Batman vs. Robin. I really have enjoyed some of Riccardo Federici's art over in Action Comics. And I think Riccardo Federici is an even more kind of natural fit for Batman as opposed to Superman, thanks to some of his like hyper realistic detail over on the page. It's great to get so many characters over on one page. I feel like Federici does such a good job, catching characters in really kind of strong and dynamic poses. There are so many interesting characters kind of throughout the issue, and I think Federici does a great job kind of characterizing them in their kind of various panels. We have Monkey Prince, Mary Bromfeld as Shazam. We have Cyborg and Power Girl, just such a kind of an interesting cast running the gamut of DC characters. And it's just kind of great to get Riccardo Federici's depiction of, more characters than just the Superman franchise as well throughout the issue. I think everybody's always kind of striking a pose. And I do like that so many of the characters have a sort of secondary action from Federici. If I could critique, kind of any one aspect of his art, I think the characters can seem a little stiff, especially in moments like this where they're kind of like narrating to each other. And I would love for Federici to get a little bit more kind of dynamic in some of his presentation of the art. But still, I think this is a really kind of formidable set of pencils. And when we go a little bit deeper into the issue, there is a gorgeous plot reveal page with Batman that is one of the most beautiful and detailed works I've ever seen over from Federici. So, just in terms of the art for this issue, I think Riccardo Federici is just a wonderful pick for the title and has such kind of a different element to his art than Batman vs. Robin artist Mahmoud Asrar carries over to the series. And it's really interesting to kind of dive a little bit deeper into the script from Mark Waid because I have felt a little bit hot and cold on Batman versus Robin. My critiques of that series basically extend to the harsh level of violence, kind of like interrupting the flow of the story. Maybe some of those plot elements were needed to go into Lazarus Planet Alpha, but I think this issue is just a little bit more focused than some of those Batman versus Robin chapters. And I love how this series kind of goes so deep into those dark fantasy elements as the heroes of this issue are trying to recover some magical artifacts so that they can do battle with the villain in the issue, the villainous King Fire Bull, which is kind of an interesting name for a DC Comics villain. And there's just so many kind of little plot elements throughout this issue that I think really set it apart for me as opposed to Batman versus Robin. The element featuring Laurie, Black Alice, talking to Monkey Prince was really a great part of the issue that fleshed out some much needed kind of characterization between the duo. And there's actually several moments with Monkey Prince kind of throughout this issue that feel particularly memorable. Also, there's kind of a moment towards the end of the issue that introduces a couple additional characters that looks really interesting and I hope is expanded as we get to more issues in Lazarus Planet. I think overall, DC just does a great job kind of pushing through some of the needless violence in the series and just kind of expanding and really making sure that those plot aspects of the issue are ironed out. I really enjoy how we get, two villains belonging to the King Fireball. We have the Silverhorn King and the Goldenhorn King, who are with the King Fireball. And it's just really interesting to see kind of two magical DC characters fight against so many different DC Comics characters over in, their essentially universe. And I think this issue just kind of does a wonderful job bringing together so many tiny, dark fantasy elements and kind of combining them with not only Batman's origins, but especially with Damian Wayne's origins as well. I love that this series is so carefully plotted that it extends even deeper than the Robin series, which was written by Joshua Williamson and had art from Gleb Melnikov, where we saw Robin essentially fight in the Tournament of Lazarus, which is kind of the precursor to this whole event series. So when you take a step back and kind of zoom out and you see that there are so many comics that were leading up to this issue, it makes this title feel all the more climactic. And I think you're going to get more out of this if you've kind of read up on all those previous Batman comics as well. But not only Batman, but Robin and titles like Monkey Prince. Speaking of Monkey Prince, I really enjoyed the second story in the collection. This one is called Nezha and the Monkey King. It's written by Gene Luen Yang, illustrated by Billy Tan, colored by Sebastian Cheng, and lettered by Janice Chiang. I really liked how we got some more kind of introduction and focus on the Devil Nezha before he was kind of the Devil Nezha, and we get a look at the Monkey King as well. The duo had a relationship that was on much better terms, and getting to see kind of these two characters in a setting not full of animosity is really interesting. And watching kind of the progression of Nezha as a character is also nice to see in the background of the issue as well. It seems to me like Gene Luen Yang and Mark Waid kind of fleshed out the creation myth behind this story, and getting that sense of detail really helps make this issue feel all the more epic as opposed to some of those previous Batman vs. Robin stories. It just feels like there's more context for Lazarus Planet Alpha than you could probably ever possibly imagine. I enjoyed the really nimble art and the expressive art from Billy Tan in this issue. I think it's kind of a good juxtaposition from Riccardo Federici's art. But the one negative I have about this story about Nezha and the Monkey King is I did find the letters from Janice Chiang really hard to read in this second story. In this issue that we have up on the screen that's lettered by Steve Wands, this is kind of what I'm used to over at DC with the kind of the caps locked words, but there's something about the italicization of the kind of font in the second story that really kind of brought me out of the narrative a little bit and made me kind of reread chapters to ensure that I was picking everything up over on the comic book page. So those are my thoughts over on Lazarus Planet Alpha #1. I think this is a great issue over from DC. I'm so happy to see that this is so tightly plotted and there's so many different characters that are implemented over to this story. I really love the kind of climactic page that Riccardo Federici drew of Batman very late into the issue, and think that this story in particular has so much potential moving forward. Plus, DC's ties to the Monkey Prince and Monkey King, as well as the Devil Nezha, really give a sense that there's a kind of creation myth behind the story, and that this is something that is really densely plotted out. But I want to know from you, did you like this issue as much as I did? What did you think about that second story following up Nezha and the Monkey King? Also, do you think that this issue is a little bit better than some of those Batman versus Robin titles? I want you guys to let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for checking out the video, and we're going to be back really soon with more excellent comic book content. We'll see you soon. Bye.